So, Beyond the Wand is a book that I actually listened to for one particular reason. It's narrated by Tom Felton himself, and I always like any memoir that is narrated by the author, and especially having grown up with Harry Potter, the books and the films, although, to be quite honest, I didn't really read the books until after I watched the films. As much as I've always enjoyed reading, I don't know what it was about the books that I just didn't get into them until the films. But anyways, of course, Draco is a fun character to see on screen. And this memoir deals with before and after Harry Potter, some of the other films that Tom Felton was in and his experiences there. By and large, it was about the Harry Potter, and I enjoyed seeing his interactions with everybody, especially like the different cast members and his older brothers, and kind of like just seeing him outside of the movies was very nice. And I did feel for him in the last few chapters. They were definitely a lot heavier than the rest of the book. But I can understand a lot of where he's coming from. And he says he wants to be open about mental health issues because, no, there shouldn't be a stigma attached to them. There shouldn't be a stigma attached to, I needed some help in order to figure out why I'm not happy, why this isn't working for me. So yeah, it was a very good memoir, and it was, for the most part, very fun and lighthearted. I'd say it's really just the last two chapters that are like the hardest hitting. So, if you're looking for something lighter, you can read up to there and then come back to those when, you feel more ready to read them, or, just kind of end it there. But overall, I do definitely recommend this if you like memoirs, and I definitely recommend the audiobook on this. So I listened to Cary Elwes's As You Wish, which is a memoir of his time on The Princess Bride, and I did like that this audiobook was narrated by him along with some of the other actors and other people that had little like asides in it. However, not all of them were by the people they were written by. There was two or three people that were read for by somebody else. And yeah, this was a fun little book. If you like The Princess Bride, you definitely like this. It does have some fun little tales, like about Andre the Giant helping calm fears for people, how he dealt with the way people and animals would react to him due to, his size. And just that was fun. Learning about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff was fun. If you're not a fan of The Princess Bride, then I don't think you would like this. If you haven't read the book or watched the movie, I would recommend doing that before just jumping into this, as it does have some spoilers. And yeah, overall it was just kind of fun, light, and fluffy, but definitely worth the time. Darkroom Etiquette is a young adult psychological thriller, I would call it, and it takes some real twists and turns. We follow Sayers through his life then through a traumatic experience, and then throughout the 6 months after this traumatic experience to see how it's affected him, how he has grown. And I do feel like he shows a lot of character growth in the end. I feel like the mental health struggle after what he went through is very realistic. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend this for the faint of heart at all. But if you like thrillers, I think this would be a pretty good one to pick up. If you like psychological studies of characters, this would also be a good one to pick up. There is one question left that I would really like to know the answer to, and I feel like I can't be the only one, and that is, what happened to Daniel? I really want to know the answer to that after everything that happened in this book. So, yeah, this is one. The audiobook was well narrated as well, so if you're into audiobooks, this is worthwhile as an audiobook listen as well. I listened to the audiobook collection of Henry Huggins, and this was all 6 books, and this was quite enjoyable. Beverly Cleary has a way of writing children that is very well done and feels very authentic. And I kind of summarized the first chapter to my dad, and he started laughing. Because basically, the first chapter, you meet Henry Huggins, and he goes swimming at the YMCA every Wednesday. And he's bored. He wants something to happen to him, something exciting. And something exciting does happen. He finds a stray dog. And so he calls his mother, says, "Please, can I keep this dog?" And she says, "Well, all right, but only if you can get him home on the bus, because your father has the car, so I can't come pick you up." So Henry tries to take the dog on the bus. Then he's told, "No, you can't bring him on the bus. He has to be in a box." So he gets off the bus, tries to find a box. The box is too small, but okay, Ribsy's in the box. So tries to get on the next bus. And the driver says, "No, he has to be in a box that is closed." Well, Henry can't find a box big enough to actually close over Ribsy. So he finds a paper bag that is also too small, and then asks for some paper and twine so he can wrap Ribsy like a package. And so he wraps Ribsy like a package and gets on the bus. And you can kind of imagine what happens from there. So he finally gets Ribsy home, and you learn basically about Henry's life, like what he likes to do. He goes around with his friends, gets into different troubles with Ribsy. He has troubles with his friend Beezus' younger sister Ramona. And if you've read Beverly Cleary, you should recognize those names. This is actually the first series Beverly Cleary wrote, and then she wound up writing a book about Beezus and Ramona, and then that wound up being the Ramona Quimby series, which I listened to earlier on this year, so it was kind of fun to continue on and see where it all began. And I also like how each chapter is almost like a short story. They do build on themselves a little bit, but it's also not that hard to if you read a chapter, you don't have to remember every single detail. They just all have Henry, they all have Ribsy, they all have his friends to some extent, maybe different friends in different chapters. But yeah, and Henry gets into all sorts of different scrapes. He works on getting a paper route, he works on getting a bike, a football, he wants to go salmon fishing, and you just kind of follow him through these things that, young boys, young kids in general really like to do. And it was definitely enjoyable fun. And there is a brief interview with Beverly Cleary at the end. And I do like, she says that there's a lot of people who wrote into her and said that her stories were like their safe space. She shared a story about a girl who was the child of a single mother, had to go home and lock herself in her apartment because she was in a bad part of town. And the way she coped with this was by reading Henry Huggins and Ramona Quimby because, they made her feel safe. So this is definitely like a very emotional series for a lot of people. And I do feel like it's aged very well. It was written back in the 50s, but there's not a whole lot to really tell you about that. There's still TVs and phones, the games the children play, it's still, tag and imagination and stuff like that. So I feel like they are very timeless, and I could definitely recommend this for really anybody, and especially if you like stories with animals. Ribsy, the dog, does play a very big part in these stories. And so that was kind of cute to see as well. So yeah, I'm definitely glad that I didn't go with what my 8-year-old self thought of Ramona Quimby, age 8. Because I believe I mentioned it when I reviewed that in 2nd grade I was required to read Ramona Quimby, age 8. And for some reason, I cannot remember why, I just didn't like it. But now, rereading those and reading Henry Huggins, I really do enjoy them and, find them quite humorous. I read The Virgin Suicides, and the main reason I read this is it was on the Guardian list of 1,000 books to read before you die, and this was listed in the love genre, which it does make sense that that's where it's listed. However, I cannot say that I really liked the book or connected to it. Obviously, it is about suicide, but I feel like it's just treated very cavalierly, and just the girls themselves are not very well fleshed out, and I just honestly didn't see much point to the book. Whereas you can feel like some books are trying to tell you something, or they're trying to entertain you. I didn't really feel like this was either. I do, however, feel that part of it, with the girls not being that well fleshed out, it's kind of showing how, since this is narrated by the boys, it's kind of trying to show how the boys don't really understand the girls. The boys are kind of stuck in their own world, the way that kind of everybody in adolescence is. But it really didn't have to be as long as it was. There could have been so much more done with it if that was the main point. So yeah, I mean, if you are a completionist for a list like that, then maybe you should read it. But I honestly can't really think of anybody to recommend it to, as it's just, quite honestly, not that great. So I finally finished Sailor Moon. It took me probably about 2 months. I kind of read it off and on. I really enjoyed it. I love how you can see the art progressing. It gets better with each volume, and I really enjoy from about volume 5 onward. We get the outer Senshi come in, and I just feel like they add a lot to the series, and they give it more depth, make it more than just a kind of like monster of the week, villain of the week sort of thing. And obviously Sailor Pluto is my favorite. I don't know what it is about her, I just really like her. And this is the first real Sailor Moon exposure I've had. I believe I read like one of the novels years ago, and I really enjoyed it, but I've never watched the anime, had never seen the original manga, and so when my library finally got the rest of them, I was like, alright, I definitely want to read this. And then they have some really good editor's notes at the end, and I learned something. I did not know that this author was actually married to the author of Hunter x Hunter. So I learned that in the notes. And yeah, I really like this series, and after reading it, I need like 4 spin-offs. Like, I need to know the past, what happened in the first Silver Millennium. Then I want to see Chibiusa and her team. I want to see the Outer Senshi raising Saturn. And then from the very end, what we learn there, I just want to see a like travel story. And I'm not going to spoil that part, even though I know I spoiled kind of a lot. But yeah, I definitely want to see like a travel story there where we get to meet other characters, and I feel like the ending should have come a lot closer to the beginning, and like, had more of an impact on the story going forward rather than being kind of like this is where it ends. Although it does make sense for it to end there because it is a big epic battle, which is how you kind of want to end a battle series like this. But I did really enjoy it, and if you enjoy magical girl mangas, this is like the first and one of the 2 best. I want to say Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura, I believe, was another one of the first, and that's another one that I also love. So yeah, if you liked Cardcaptor Sakura and haven't read this, then definitely read this. So I was interested in the Legend trilogy by Marie Lu, and I found out my library had all 3 of the graphic novel adaptations, so I checked those out and read them. I did like the art, however, I did feel like it was very insta-lovey. There was not a whole lot of world building, and I feel like especially in book 2, you're introduced to the Elector, or I should say the new Elector, and you don't even know anything about who the first, the previous Elector was, how did he die, or anything like that. And then we also just randomly get thrown out there, Antarctica's a superpower. And I was just kind of like, what? Like, I want to know, how did this happen? How did people come to settle in Antarctica? And stuff like that. I had been reading some reviews on Goodreads, and a couple of them did say, these do not go near as in-depth as the books do. So I'm thinking I might still pick up the first book. I may pick it up on audio to listen to instead of actually reading it. And I'm still kind of debating on it. Because to be honest, while it wasn't bad, I just felt like it was kind of your typical YA dystopia. You know, the government's not good, the alternate government isn't good, we want to try to make a difference, it's only us young people who can. Although I will say, at least in this, it was less of all young people, and it was kind of a lot of different people, a lot of people in like different age ranges, people who had been fighting against this for a long time. So that part I did feel was better done, was more realistic, that, you have some people who have been doing this for a long time. And yeah, the art though, like I said, the art was good, so I did enjoy that. And it was very fast paced. I read each of these in about an hour. I can say, if you do like YA dystopias, I don't see any reason why you would dislike this. And I really didn't dislike it, it was just not quite as in depth, like I said, as I wanted. So this is everything I read in September. And I also got a few books this month. So I'm going to go ahead and let you know what those are. So I got the newest Twisted Tale book, which is When You Wish Upon a Star. And if you don't know what Twisted Tales are, this is a series that reimagines the classic Disney movies with a twist. A major plot that what if it hadn't happened. So this one is Pinocchio, and this is what if the Blue Fairy was not supposed to have granted his wish? What if she wasn't allowed to grant his wish? So I'm definitely interested to see what exactly this gets into. This is a very long series. Each one obviously is a standalone. I've only read one book in it, but I did enjoy it. So I'm definitely, like I said, looking forward to 2 different ones. Then I got Fourth Wing. Yes, I succumbed to the hype. And I've heard different things about it. And I do like dragons. So I figured, I'll give it a try. And the cover is very pretty with the gold. So yeah, I'm nervous is the best way to put it about getting into Fourth Wing. Then I got Book and Bond, The Long Goodbye of the Last Bookstore, and The Devotion of the Surgery Room. And these are short stories, basically. In each of these, they follow a boy who can speak to books, and he tries to help them find their correct owner. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it. I'd seen somebody talk about The Long Goodbye of the Last Bookstore, so you know what, I'll go ahead and try them. And then I got You Again, and this is about Ari and Josh, and they met when they were younger, and they just rubbed each other the wrong way. Then they go their separate ways, they don't expect to see each other again, and then several years later, they meet up in a very unexpected way. And obviously this is going to be a rom-com, which sometimes I like, sometimes I don't. Knowing it's a rom-com going into it, I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine, at least, a 3-star read. But it just sounds rather unique with when they meet again, it is because they're both dating the same woman. So that kind of intrigued me. And of course you have the fall foliage on the cover. So I'm definitely going to read this in October because it's obviously a perfect fall read. Then the last book I got was Bright Young Women. And this is, I believe, a thriller. Let me take a look here. Yes, it is basically a historical thriller in the 1970s. So I'm definitely interested to read that. And again, the cover with the colors is very striking. So yeah, that was September's reading and a little bit of a glimpse into what I have for October. And as always, thank you for joining me here in the Book Cave. If you want to see more bookish content from me, go ahead and subscribe with the bell icon, and I'll see you next time.